the turmoil at the quarterback position, or not having Justin or JA for chunks of time throughout the season. So it was obviously unfortunate to lose them late in the year like we did. But I've been very, very excited about the possibility of getting TJ's skill set back in our offense, and it will be something that I think should be a real positive for us. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Wanted to first start out today and just make sure once again I thanked everybody involved with the trip of that magnitude. We really love getting a chance to go over to London, and love that we feel such a fan base there of the Minnesota Vikings. But a lot goes into it, not only for our team but the fans that traveled. So wanted to just highlight all of our folks here in-house that helped make that trip such a success for our players. Our second time going over there, coming back with a win, and then ultimately the NFL, they put a lot of their folks over there that do a great job with that, and then just highlighting our players' ability. What's been a pretty grueling 5 weeks really of that culminated with that trip, and created a lot of excuses for our team that our guys just really weren't having, and went out and found a way to beat a good football team in a close game. We didn't necessarily play our best, but I thought our defense was massive for us. And I want to highlight Flo and his staff, that side of the ball. And then offensively for making enough plays there to find a way to get Will a swing at it late, and all he did was go out there and hit another one for us. He's been phenomenal. Ryan Wright, I thought, with some critical field position punts to pin the Jets down deep in their side of the field. So really, all three phases when we had to have them, making some really things happen to win the game, but highlighted clearly by our defense and Will Reichert, his ability to go execute. Overall, I'm happy with where our team's at. But we'll use this week to rest up, recharge, get healthy, hopefully in a couple spots, and go start attacking the next challenge, which will be a great one in the Detroit Lions coming to town. Just to highlight just the roster move that took place, putting Myles Gaskins back on the roster, and Robert Tonyan back to the practice squad, just with the unique nature of how we're navigating certain aspects of the roster on game day, and how we kind of handle those things. Both those guys have done a nice job being ready to go when called upon, and will likely be called upon again. And just wanted to finish off with the injury updates I do have. Mainly, Aaron Jones continues to be evaluated, but all the early information that we've got so far, it looks like we've avoided a long-term injury, but I would classify him as really week to week at this point. He'll get treatment throughout this week, and I'll give you guys an update where he's at next week as we kind of hopefully work him back into getting involved in practice, and leading into whether we'll have him versus the Lions. And then Caleb Evans is really on a pretty similar timeline as well. So I'll update you guys all next week on those two players.
Okay, we'll start with Andrew and then go to Kevin and Dave.
Hey, Kevin. Yeah, just along the running back front, what did you think of what Ty Chandler was able to do for you replacing Aaron?
Yeah, I thought it was a shame a couple of his real ops, one of which went 30 plus yards. We had a procedural penalty that cannot happen, and then had another penalty on another nice gain there in the second half, where I think they got Ed for a penalty that was really could have gone either way, kind of with how the play kind of materialized and everything. So tough to lose some quality yards, especially with the type of game it was against one of the top defenses in the NFL. Thought there were some other runs where I think if Ty can get into a flow, into a groove, maybe we find a few more yards on him, but that's all part of the process. I got a lot of confidence in Ty, really going back to last year when he really emerged for us like he did, second half of last season. So a lot of confidence in Ty. Clearly, we can't have the ball end up on the ground, which happened on one of our wide zone kind of toss plays, which was a huge play in the game at that point in time. Defense was able to go out and get the ball back for us, but would love to just get the simple execution. And it's one of the things we'll take a look at is just, across the board, just a little cleaner, cleaner operation as an offense in its totality will lead to us being a little bit more consistent, I do believe, because there are a bunch of really talented players on our offense, and there's plays that are out there. We just got to just start doing consistently a little bit more of the little things that we've got to do a better job, as coaches making sure happens.
Yeah, Kevin, whenever TJ does get back into the lineup, how do you imagine him sort of influencing the offense, knowing what he's capable of and knowing what you've, missed without having him?
Yeah, I think Kevin, he just provides such an incredible asset in the interior of our pass game. How he works in conjunction with our wide receivers or maybe Aaron Jones and out of the backfield, where we could truly see, the weapons that we kind of envisioned, once we fully got healthy and got TJ back there. I think Josh Oliver, Johnny Munt, have both done a really nice job. Josh is consistent force in the run game and showing up a little bit here and there in the pass game as well. And Johnny will still play a role also, which has been critical to us in TJ's absence. So you guys always, I've been very vocal about my confidence in that tight end room. Not only, as we've been operating, but getting one of the top players, in my opinion, at the position back is always going to be a jolt for your offense, and especially with how we've built our system really since TJ's arrived here going back to 2022 when he arrived mid-season like he did and immediately made an impact, was a huge part of our offense continuing to be able to move the ball last year despite the turmoil at the quarterback position or not having Justin or JA for chunks of time throughout the season. So it was obviously unfortunate to lose him late in the year like we did. But I've been very, very excited about the possibility of getting TJ's skill set back in our offense, and it will be something that I think should be a real positive for us.
Kevin, you mentioned after the game the offense not being up to your standard. Just kind of after watching back the film, how much of that do you think was just because Aaron was sidelined for 3/4 of the game?
Yeah, I think Aaron's impact obviously was felt early on in the game. He made a big play on a third down, one-on-one pass game situation. Nick Mullins, walks on the field, immediately finds him. Found some yards there in the run game. Our average kind of dipped down a little bit once as the game went on. We knew that was going to be a really good front. Incredibly impactful guys in the interior, speed at the linebacker position. Knew it would be tight coverage. They've got a lot of confidence in those corners, and rightly so. Two really good players. So knew it was going to be a challenge. Dave, I think the thing that was frustrating is just as you look back on it, there were some opportunities, in the pass game, maybe to kind of eliminate some of that, frustration by that's how you kind of have to play against a defense like that. When you get your ops, either maybe an open guy down the field, and if we can, give a maximum opportunity for yards after catch, maybe a couple of those plays have a chance to be bigger gains, even maybe touchdowns. And then when you are attacking the top shelf, sometimes it's not necessarily always the top shelf. It might be Johnny Munt on a crossing route. It might be, maybe a lack of coverage, resources sent towards players like that, that there could be some ops. But it's an all 11 thing. It's the protection's got to hold up against a good front. It's the details. It's the release plans versus tight coverages. It's the rhythm and timing of the quarterback and the decision making. And then as the weather started to get a little more sloppy there in the second half, whether it was footing or the ability to pitch and catch, none of those things are excuses. We've got to go out and operate and execute. And I think our team and our offense we'll get back on track with really focusing on the little things that are required to make some of those bigger plays happen in a game like that, where you're going to be fighting and scratching and clawing for every yard. When you get some ops, you got to take advantage of them.
Matthew, then Dane.
Kevin, 5 games in, top defense in the league. I guess I'm curious, just as you look at the way the defense has performed, if there is something in particular that you put your finger on for why they've been as effective as they have. Obviously, the free agent spending and bringing in new guys has been very effective. But is there something that you look at to say that there is a particular reason they have been able to excel? Feels like somebody else comes up with a big play each week for this defense.
Yeah, I think there's some layers to it, Matt. I do. I think we brought in a lot of really smart football players and paired those guys with smart football players. I think the depth that exists up front, where you might see more splash plays, and rightly so, from Van Ginkel or Grenard, Blake Cashman. The corners get Steph and Shaq both pairing with Murph to make a lot of plays with our safeties kind of in unison. But when you think about Harrison Phillips, Bull, guys that we really have a lot of confidence in, and then you've got the Tillerys and you've got different players some young guys making an impact, taking some snaps. You've got different players in that outside linebacker room, whether it's Pete Jones has been fantastic. Obviously Van Ginkel and Grenard, Dallas Turner finding his way, making some plays and really showing up with his skill set. We just have a complete group with some really, really high level coaching going on with Flo and his staff. And then those players making it all come to life with the adjustments we've kind of made year over year. From Flo's first year to year 2, and then the players' ownership of that to really drive the whole thing and make it go, with their ability to get really into the right call based upon what we think the offense may be trying to do, and really get into a great call as the final call when that ball gets snapped, I think has really come to life, and it's shown up. The impactfulness of a lot of smart football players shows up with being in the right place at the right time. It's not just luck that you fall into some good plays and some spots where you can get your hands on some footballs. It's all 11 working together within the call, within the system, and making some huge impactful plays throughout the course of these first 5 games. And what I'm most excited about is, I think that there's so much more there as we continue to move throughout this season and face the type of challenges you're going to face, on our schedule, but also as you start playing, teams for the first time, but then the second time late in the year in the division. That's where I'm going to really look for constant improvement, constant comfort within the scheme from our players, and Flo and his staff doing it at such a high level has been a huge thing for our organization.
Hey, Kevin, with Sam, when you needed the 3 points, he went down the other day and got them. It's been a common trend for him this season. Just what stood out about his poise to come through in those weighty moments, kind of regardless of how the game has gone, good, bad, or indifferent before?
Yeah, I think, when offensively early on in the game, outside of really the play where the ball gets put on the ground and they get an easy turnover, we were moving it, pretty consistently. We got down there and scored a touchdown when we got in the red zone. I would have liked to think we could have finished that drive we turned it over on in the first half with points, or at the very least 3, hopefully 7. But I think what I was proud of with Sam was it was another example of when momentum had kind of turned in many ways by our own doing. He was able to jog back out on that field, walk into the huddle, and move the team. Found the big play to Justin down the middle, finds Johnny Munt. Once we got behind the chains again on another early down penalty, he's able to find Justin on first and 20, whatever it was, and then find Johnny Munt for a big conversion, and then put the ball on the money a couple more plays there in some tough pockets, tough circumstances. But ultimately the goal was make sure we at least made it. We at least got 3 on that drive. Would have loved to get a touchdown there. But we get stopped there, and Will puts it through to go up 6, where at least they've got to drive and score a touchdown against our defense, and at the very least, if we're unable to make a stop, which we were, and we had a lot of confidence they would get a stop, we would hopefully have a chance to then use the confidence of moving it in the previous drive to then try to drive and attempt a game-winning field goal if we had to. So a lot of things there. We're learning a lot about our team, but those moments where it hasn't been pretty, it's we've kind of become stagnant for one too many drives there in the second half. We turn it over, backed up there. What are we going to go do about it? What's the next snap going to look like? And he dropped back and was really good on that drive for us. And I thought that was critical. And that's what Sam's been. That was him dealing with adversity when his team needed him. And he made some plays there that gave us a better opportunity to go win that football game when you think about how our defense played. And, really our kicker and punter had performed that day. So that's what it's going to be like sometimes. There's going to come a time this season where momentum is lost, and our offense might need to be the group that moves it and gets us the lead back, goes and finishes a close game in the end and finds a way to win a game. We'll be prepared when that moment comes. But in the meantime, we're finding ways to win football games right now. And what we've done up until this point, you guys know exactly what I'm going to say. It doesn't mean a whole lot coming off this bye. It's going to be about that challenge of playing Detroit at home in a division game. It's going to be a big opportunity for us against a really, really good team.
Do one last question to Jeff.
Coach, a lot of players use the bye week to get not only a physical, but a mental rest, and maybe go on a vacation, just get away from football altogether. What does the bye week for you look like from a coaching standpoint? Do you allow yourself to get away from football, or like you said, is it just trying to continue the grind?
Yeah, Jeff, I think the more you do this job, the more you understand that the bye week, it does exist for more reasons than just self-scout, than just going back through. I think we've improved our process week over week throughout the season. We've got a lot of really good coaches, a lot of smart guys. So we're trying to stay on top of things much more than just, okay, we've played 5 games. Let's talk about it and make changes where we see fit. I think we're constantly always trying to find improvement week in and week out. How do we give these guys the best game plans? Where are we at personnel wise? Are we using our personnel the best possible way that we can? Where do we need to improve technique, fundamentals? How do we craft our drill work and our practice time we do get in season to improve? So my hope is that we've been doing those things already, that this doesn't need to be a massive kind of overhaul. But at the same time, I do think it's a nice little checkpoint throughout the season for us to do our work in here and make sure when the players do come back after a much needed break that we're ready to go. So I think it's both. But the last part of that is I do believe, especially with an earlier bye coming off of a pretty grueling trip, let's call it what it is with the time change. Those of you guys on this call that made the trip, and I know you're probably feeling it as well. It is what it is, and you've got to find the recovery time here, both mentally and physically, to make sure you're ready to hit the ground running, because we'll come back, have a division opponent, a very good one here at home, then have a short week to travel out to LA for a Thursday game, and then we'll get another little mini bye in there. So sequentially, we've got to be exactly where our feet are planted and attack each challenge as its own. But I do think it's important for our staff and players to recharge. Really proud of these first 5 weeks, really proud of the results, but it's never really been about that. We got to make sure we come back and stay true to the process and keep on chasing improvement with the discipline to do so every single day. And that's going to be my job, to make sure I'm stressing that throughout our whole organization coming off this bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.